Don't you know? Don't you know? You are special, girl. You are extraordinary. You are special, girl.
Today I'm chatting with the band Couch. Their music has surpassed 40 million streams, and their rising profile has led to tours with artists like Cory, Wong, and Lake Street Dive. In their hometown scene, they've been recognized as Pop Artist of the Year and Live Artist of the Year at the Boston Music Awards. I'm chatting with their lead singer Tema today, along with their drummer Jared and trumpet player Jeff. It's all coming up right here on Funktastic Chats.
What a terrible date, I want a quick fix. I'm coming round for sympathy, can you show it? I need a little maternal love, no assistance. Now I'm so upset because I forget how you show it. Heard something I don't like, tried your best to get it right. Too bad I'm served over ice. You're on the wire, and you might wanna tread a little lighter. One mistake, you fall into the fire. You may be tough, but I'll
And the song you're listening to now is called On the Wire. It is the title track of their brand new full-length album called Big Talk. It blends soul, pop, funk, R&B with rich harmonies and horn-driven grooves. It's super polished songwriting and arrangements higher the 70s band's sound. Big Talk helped launch Couch onto the bigger stage, including national TV appearances and an international tour supporting the band. Oh my God, I'm here with Couch. It is so great to have you guys here. I'm so excited to chat with you, and thank you guys so much for coming on today. This is what happens when you buy the Couch merch, you guys. Okay, I get like 3 members of Couch at this interview here, so this is so awesome. I have a crazy story that it's a funny story that I want to start off with about this Couch t-shirt. If I turn around, Will's signature is on the back. And part of the reason I wanted to reach out to you guys, I was like, these guys are just so freaking cool. I bought this shirt before the show, and after the show, I saw Will and a couple of the band members were hanging out, talking to people, and I kind of interrupted, and I was like, this is in Brooklyn, by the way. I was like, man, I would love it if you signed this t-shirt for me. You're a lefty bass player. I'm a lefty bass player too. And he goes, do you have a marker? And I'm like, no. And then he was like, I'll meet you outside, man. And then he just kept chatting with people. And so I stepped outside with everyone I was with. And I was like, guys, he's busy. Totally get it. Let's call an Uber. And right before the Uber comes, I look out and I see this guy. Will's a pretty tall guy, right? I see him holding a marker up like this. And he's like, I'm here. And I just thought it was so cool to come chase me outside. I just thought that was pretty funny. And I guess, Tema, I'll start with you. When you guys are out playing outside of Boston, especially at these VIP pre-shows, are you starting to kind of recognize some familiar faces, that moment of like, hey, I know you, are you guys intentional about kind of nurturing that face-to-face connection with some of your fans as the rooms keep getting bigger over time?
We absolutely have repeat audience members, folks we now recognize from cities across the country, which is really wonderful because it means even when we're far from home, there's a sense of familiarity and community. And I do think activities like our VIP meet and greets are the reason that we can have those kinds of relationships. We're not just walking on stage, playing to a dark room full of people and then going home. We do the VIP meet and greet so that we can actually engage with the people who have dedicated time and money to supporting our project, and to say thank you and to learn about them and tell them, whatever they might want to know about us. So it's wonderful to see that paying off.
I imagine it's probably extra cool too when all those people are probably in the front row at your shows and you get your most hardcore fans in the front. So I bet that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, right after we play our VIP sets, the attendees are allowed to find their spot in the room wherever they want to watch the show from. And so a lot of them do stand right up against the barricade. And for me, that's fun because then it's like I'm singing to people who I know are really enthusiastic about being there, and people who I now have like a little friendship with. So if I'm feeling like I need a little energy boost or confidence boost, I can look at them and they'll provide.
The VIP shows, which is like really fun as well. So it's fun just to play the shows, and it's really fun to connect with people and hear their stories and just share our stories and talk about stuff that we don't normally get to talk about often. But there is like a strategic element to it as well. So you're talking about shows outside of Boston, and like, do we see the same familiar faces on the road? Early on, when we were playing shows, largely the people that would come to shows were people we knew personally. And it's like, hey guys, come to this show, like do us a favor, etc. But then like if our show is actually good and it's not just our friends doing us favors, then they'll tell their friends, hey, come see this band with me next time in town, like, etc. And we can like make fans just by playing a good show, but we can make super fans and fans that actually are invested in us the way that we're invested in us by developing these more personal relationships with them. And it helps us grow our audience in a more meaningful way that lasts longer too.
You know, I felt that just from talking to Will. I mean, I don't know if it's purposeful that a few of them were hanging out after the show, kind of right outside of the room, but that was just so cool to me. I mean, he definitely did not have to run outside in the cold. And what month was that? November or something with a Sharpie. That was just so nice. And I, as a performer myself, as a bass player, I remember that's something I'll remember. So that was really cool. People are so into AI these days, taking over the world. But let me tell you, that's kind of how I found out about you guys. I mean, I was listening to Spotify, and I don't know if you guys have heard of like this AI Spotify DJ, where it plays stuff similar to what you listen to, and it played Autumn, and I was like, who is that? And I've been hooked ever since. I guess maybe Jared, what is your opinion of AI in the music space these days? Do you have any opinions on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a slippery slope, as goes for many different fields with the implementation of AI. I think AI as a creative tool, when it actually comes to the music creation, I think is probably less appealing. But as you're explaining about music discovery, I think maybe there are some benefits there for the AI algorithms to connect you to music that it thinks that you will like. And so I think it's kind of a two-sided coin, in that the creative side, it's probably not so beneficial for creatives who put a lot of work into learning their instruments and learning how to songwrite and lyric write and whatnot. But then also on the other side, when it helps to expose your music to people who maybe would not have come across your stuff in other ways, it might be beneficial.
Yeah, it's funny. I listening to, I think it was Tema, like in another interview or something, when you were like talking about playlists and stuff, like getting onto playlists, and I think you were like, I'm not sure if we belong on like a coffee house like playlist. All of a sudden, like it's nice and chill, and all of a sudden we hit you real hard on beat two like this. So I was wondering if just got like AI is kind of getting you in front of new fans in a new way. Or I guess maybe a better question is, how do you feel new fans are finding out about you guys right now?
I think there are lots of pipelines that new fans can access us. We've heard a lot of times, especially a couple years ago, AI related. Like we were trying to do this big social media push and like hop on the TikTok train back in like the end of COVID and stuff like that. And there we had one or two like TikToks slash Instagram reels like go viral. One of them was Will's idea, funnily enough. It was this video that was like, so we wear in-ear monitors as we're performing, which are basically just like glorified earbuds. So like we hear all of our own instruments piped in to our ears, and that's how we're able to like not go deaf after doing this so many times. But he made this video that was like what we hear when we're on stage, and it was just the mix of like his in-ears, where it's like cut out on 4, like in on 2, and it's like the click track and stuff, and like that it got millions and millions of views just for no apparent reason. And at the next string of shows, like a bunch of people were like, I just found out about you guys last week or something because I saw this thing come up in my TikTok.
Wow.
So I think a lot of people do see us and like discover us through, algorithmic means, whether it's on social media or on Spotify or Apple Music or some streaming service. And I think one of our strengths as a band is that we are also largely like a word of mouth band. Um, I think a lot of artists that are not a word of mouth band, they're purely algorithmic. It's like they fall victim, sometimes benefit, but often become the victim of like trend cycles where it's like, oh, they have a song that goes viral, they pop off, but then a year later they can't sell any tickets. Whereas a lot of people that come to our shows, it's like they were friends of us personally, or then they invited their friends and they invite their friends and their friends. And then others like they just they've experienced us and now they just cast a wider net and show us to new people. So I think that enables us to kind of grow more steadily.
What I loved at your show was because everybody wants to take out their phones and take video and pictures, but I think it was like a few songs in, maybe I'm wrong, where Tema said we're taking couch family photos where these cameras literally go out into the crowd, and because take out my phone and it's like I'll still get notifications and text messages and the notifications bar. It's like one of the reasons I can't wear an Apple Watch for the life of me, or I'll drive myself crazy. But I was just wondering how intentional that was, and how, if that was like conscious choice to keep people connected and present in the moment in a couch show.
Absolutely. We started doing couch family photos back when we first began touring because we were trying to come up with some kind of unique gimmick, really, to make our show more memorable, to engage the audience. Because sometimes the only playing hopefully good music isn't enough. I think we've experimented with getting the audience to sing with us, with sending the cameras out. It was, that's where it came from, just an extra way to engage. But I agree with you. Over time, I've felt like it's also brought people into the present moment a little bit more. And part of what we like about it is in using digital cameras or digital looking cameras, there's a nostalgia factor to it. And when we send those cameras out, we even encourage people to capture not just themselves or their friends, but maybe new people that they met in line at the show that night. So it is all an effort to foster community, and also more recently to raise money for Rosie's Place, which is a women's shelter in our hometown, doing really important work right now for trans women, immigrant women, women of all kinds that are unhoused in Boston and seeking food and shelter and educational services.
Wow, that's amazing. So how many, if you were to guess, how many photos do you think you guys average a night on that?
Oh my God.
Do the math.
A night? I mean, hundreds, maybe.
Really, or just, I mean, everybody gets it, right? Does it go around even to the upper balconies and everything?
That's the idea. That's the idea. If people are following directions, at least, then yes, it should make its way fairly around the room. But yeah, I'd say hundreds to be safe, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's more.
In Chicago, where I live, it's like musicians are hired for tours and they're in multiple different projects and lineups, and they rotate constantly. It'd be like Emma and the band, not couch. How do you guys manage and build just a solid group of the same 7 people? How was that just kind of like decided from the beginning, or is it just you guys kind of just felt? You know what I'm trying to say? Walk me through. This is the Rolling Stones. It's the same people every time, and it's just something that's so cool to me. And you could see it through the chemistry.
I think there's a lot of factors that kind of go into that work in our favor for why it is the structure and has stayed the structure. So for one, all of us minus Jared grew up in the greater Boston area. So we knew each other in a musical context before Couch ever existed. And like we had worked on musical projects together before Couch existed, and we made a Couch musical project. So it was sort of like a logical, like, this is the group that we're going to like coalesce around. And Zach met Jared in college early on. And the only like missing piece for Couch was we didn't have like a consistent drummer. So Jared was like the perfect match for us there. And I think
Wasn't it
reason
like in like a practice room or something? Zach
Yeah,
found you or something,
there's a very
and then you had to go play a live show without any rehearsal or something.
well, yeah. There's the very the a short origin story with how I met Zach is that very Jack Black School of Rock esque way in which I was in a practice room in one of the first weekends of me being in college. He was a year older than me, and I was practicing in the practice room, and I just felt these eyes on me through the little sliver of glass, and it was just Zach like peering in, who I've never met at that point. And then I met him a couple of hours later, returning a practice room key. And he's, were you in that room? And I was like, yeah. And we started bonding over some shared music interests, and we ultimately were in jazz band and all that type of stuff together. So, but that's the story.
That's awesome. So how did you guys get to that point where, this is the band and we are, we're all invested in this. This is what point did that come for you guys?
I'm going to just keep elaborating for a second. I think one thing that's different about us is, other than Tema, who went to school for performing arts, and Eric, who was a music major in his at college, none of us expected to be professional musicians as our primary career. Like, we all took music seriously throughout high school and in college, but none of us, apart from the two that I mentioned, were like, I'm doing music as a career. So I think that made us, more attached to Couch as our musical outlet, and less like opportunistic about just hopping on the best available gig for us.
Yeah.
And I know for my own reason that, like, if I quit Couch, I don't think that I'd find a better gig anywhere. And if I quit Couch 2 years ago, I don't think that would have been the case or anything like that. So it's just like, I think a lot of us feel really fortunate that we ended up in this position because of a combination of luck and hard work and all this stuff that makes us continue to feel committed and have a sense of pride and ownership over it.
Well, I think creatives in general, like, struggle with gratitude sometimes, just because the ambition never really turns off for us. Like, there's another goal, another level. So I guess, Tema, when you think back to those early days as a band, I think I heard a story of you guys marking spots on the sidewalk with chalk of where you guys were going to stand for your first show or something like that. And compare it to now with a full crew. Will is up there on his own platform. You guys ever consciously stop to acknowledge how far you've come, or does it still feel you're in that heads down, keep building phase?
I think I can speak for everyone when I say it's hard to remember to take stock and feel gratitude, like you said. You know, our hobby has become our profession, which is a wonderful thing. I would so much rather be doing this than sitting at a desk for, from 9 to 5, 5 days a week. But it means that it's easy to get overwhelmed by the stress. So I think some of the most magical touring experiences we've had have been when we've kind of aligned in a moment of like joy and reflection. For me, I actually think to the night that our album dropped. Big Talk is our first full-length project. Prior to that, we just put out EPs and singles, and we were proud and excited every time we released something. But it literally took up until hours before the release for it to hit me that was about to happen, and that finally there would be like a full body of work for people to take in and to better understand who we have become as a band. And we were able to go out together that night, get some drinks, be together when the album dropped, and then go listen to it at Danny's house. And I felt so connected to the guys and to the music. So I'm incredibly grateful for moments like that. But they often come on tour too, honestly, when we're off stage, seeing beautiful places and trying to wrap our heads around the fact that our passion has brought us to places like Paris or Amsterdam. People want to hear our music, and because of that, we get to do pretty adventurous things.
You guys are going to Europe next week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exciting. Very, very exciting.
So you're in Boston, and What was it like for you guys playing your biggest show ever with like a 3,500 capacity? How was that?
It was the first time I felt nervous in a while before a couch show. Sometimes it kind of feels a bit routine. It's fairly the same, if not very similar show day to day, night to night for us. But you know, a show like that that's thousands of more people on average than we usually do. It definitely was a little bit scarier than usual, but there was a unique rush of adrenaline that I think really it just made the night unforgettable. It was really awesome.
There's a really sweet moment that I remember during sound check that day. Jeff's fiance, Izzy, was there in the room with us. And she was standing in the middle of the room, out on the floor, where later that night there would be 3,500 people, but the room was empty except for Izzy watching a sound check. And she just started to cry. And I think
Oh,
that also, again, was a way to like kind of step out of our own bodies and out of our own workflow and see somebody who's close to our band being proud of us and excited for us helped remind us to experience that too.
when I was in Brooklyn, I think Jared's parents were there that night. And,
Yeah, and my brother and my grandparents. Yeah, it was a bit of a homecoming.
like the show is just such an immersive experience. And by the time it got to that point, I was like, when Tema said that, I was just, I mean, I'm a musician, so I'm not really, I'm more like watching everything, enjoying myself, but I'm more watching everything. But when he said that, I'm like screaming at the top of my lungs like a teenage girl, like rooting for you, man. Like I felt like you were my best bud in that moment. So that was so
Oh, that's
awesome.
very sweet. Yeah, no, it's always amazing. It's always an amazing feeling when we can travel around the world, and oftentimes our parents and family members will come to shows overseas, across the country. And even in those moments, it's kind of like, wow, they are also along for the ride with us, and have been supporting us for so long, and it's always really special to share that with them. And Brooklyn was absolutely no exception. It was amazing.
The first time we played in London was 2 or 3 years ago. That was the show with the highest attendance from our families.
Yeah.
Really?
Like they just take it as like an excuse to go to Europe.
Oh,
But
that's
uh,
I mean,
yeah.
amazing.
independent of each other, they all decided to fly out because they were so excited to have an excuse to travel and see us. And Jeff, wasn't your dad one of the few people who didn't come but accidentally got added to a group chat with all the parents who assumed he was there too? And he's getting these texts being like, "What time are you guys going to the show? Do you want to get dinner before?" He's just like in the US, like everybody else go to London.
He didn't realize that this was a whole thing going on. It is like think of the parents like that is like a huge like right after the Roadrunner show that you just referenced. So like backstage, there's like at Roadrunner, it's a super sick venue. There's like a whole kitchen and like lounge and like really lovely just like hangout space. And we had all of our families back there and all of like the VIPs in our lives, like that kind of thing. And it was super super nice. Like eating and like having champagne and stuff with them after dinner. Like that was a pretty magical moment for me in terms of like gratitude. You mentioned like Izzy like showing up at soundcheck. Like I think about that too. And even just like Izzy for me specifically my fiance, but I think other people have this too. It's like I remember I was on a walk with Izzy, like this was 2 years ago maybe. And I was like complaining about something couch related. I'm like, oh, this bullshit. Like I don't feel like doing this gig or whatever. And then she's like, shut up. Like just be great. Like you're lucky to have this opportunity. Like I put up with it for you. So you should put up with it too. Um, yeah. So it's like like
That's a
that
funny
actually
way to
sticks
put
with
it.
me a lot.
It sounds like, with either parents or fiancés or other relationships, just to have that grounding rock support, it just makes all the difference.
It's incredibly important. I mean, our lives are sometimes feel pretty turbulent with how much we are home and then how much we're away, and to have partners that are so understanding. I'm very fortunate that my girlfriend is so patient with me and with
Girlfriend.
my lifestyle. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're very lucky to have support figures in our life who understand what we do and are patient with us, and I think that is incredibly helpful and reassuring in this kind of lifestyle.
Um, Back to the Brooklyn show that I was at, I could have sworn, and I could be totally wrong, but I could have sworn there was something new with the lights, their production that night. The light show was sick, and so I thought I remembered you saying something like that. Is that true? Tell me more about that.
It's true. So for this tour, the Big Talk tour, this is the first time that we've brought like a full lighting package on the road with us. So that includes like these 6 towers that we assemble every night, and those towers have 2 lighting fixtures on each of them, like a vertical lighting fixture, and then these blinder bulbs on top. And the risers that you were mentioning earlier, like Will has his own riser, and Danny has his own riser, and Jared has this 8 foot by 8 foot riser, and underneath those are all these lights, and it's like all of the lights are time synced to our music. And leading up to this tour, we had a bunch of tech rehearsals because we'd never done this before. We had to practice like setting up and actually seeing that it would work, because there's a whole bunch of like digital infrastructure that goes on behind this too. Because at the beginning of a song, how do you make sure that you're starting at the right time and that the lights are synced up? So, Jared, you said that Roadrunner was one of the first shows in a while you've been scared of. For me, it was the first show of the tour. I was like terrified. In Detroit, it wasn't like big show in terms of numbers relative to some of the others in the tour, but I was terrified that like just there would be calamity after calamity on that one. But yeah, we're traveling with a lighting director too. His name is BT, and he also has like a business called Studio 60 that helped us engineer the Big Talk record as well. So it's like he's been in the lab with us even before the tour. So yeah, it's definitely a massive upgrade in terms of the experience of the show. And it's a crazy amount of work every night that we're doing, and it's absolutely maxed out what you can do van touring, because like in the US we don't have a tour bus or anything. It's extremely expensive and would just make us bleed cash. So we have 2 vehicles, we tow trailers, and our trailer had like 5 blown out tires because we're exceeding the weight limit over the course of like the first 3 legs. And then on the most recent leg of the tour, the wheel bearing, that's like the part of the axle that like the wheel actually attaches to, the wheel bearing exploded. The wheel just ejected on the highway. I wasn't in the vehicle at the time. That was Tema and Jared. But yeah, we had to get like a bigger trailer. It's all this stuff that just doing lights, we had to upgrade so much infrastructure. And
oh my God,
it's worth it.
It was a funny moment where we're just barreling down the highway. Eric, who plays sax, was driving, and he goes, "Guys, I think we lost a wheel." It is like, "What do you mean?" I just see sparks. And then we pulled over, and lo and behold, there was 1 less tire on the trail.
oh my God, were you guys on your way to another show?
Yeah, we were driving to Nashville, and we happened to just be in Kentucky, somewhere in Kentucky on the way, and it was we were just on the side of the highway, middle of nowhere.
Fortunately, it was a day off, so pretty much every time we've had a tire malfunction, it has been on a travel day. So thank you,
tour gods.
Oh, it's been on a travel day, so you guys weren't racing to get to another gig or anything afterward. Oh, well, that's amazing. Knock on wood. It's like, so it's, I mean, it's one thing to be close friends with each other, but I mean, I run a business with my wife. I could tell you that it's very challenging at times, you know. How do you navigate, quote unquote, and I wonder if this is where the name comes from, like these big talks that come with like managing relationships, creative direction, responsibility to each other when things like that happen? How do you guys go about navigating that?
Silence.
I'll call Tema.
For some reason, I assumed Jeff was going to jump all over that one.
I kind of did too. You kick it off, Jeff. You want to talk about
all right.
OCC? Let's just let Jeff cook.
All right. So it's not as big of a deal as it sounds like. I mean, we've all been in this band for 6+ years at this point. 7 years, however many years. And because of this just shared gratitude, it's like we're not trying to screw each other over. And in fact, that's the last thing that we want. It's like For example,
Speak for yourself.
so I want to screw everyone over. So when we make a song, for example, on Big Talk, we have to assign the credits. Like once it's done, it's like there's some percentage of like the writing that was done by each individual and some percent of the production and stuff like that. So we had this big discussion about
we had a big talk.
These are called like the splits. And there were times when people were like, we're given more, like it's like, oh yeah, Tema, like you get like 40% of like the writing credit on this one. Tema's like, I don't think I should get 40. I think I should get 30. I'd rather give like 5% to Zach on this one. It's like, there's actually is this spirit of like trying to help people out in that general regard. And then as it comes to more creative decisions, it's a mixture of like democratic process. There's 7 of us, which is convenient. And a mixture of like Zach, who is our manager and guitar player and tour manager and the brains of the operation. He can just like, if there's something that is directionally what we're doing, he can kind of like make those calls. But yeah, I mean, certainly there are times when we get prickly. Like, I don't know if you guys are thinking of anything specific with that, or if you wanted to color in what I said a little bit.
No, you crushed that, Jeff.
You did crush it.
For the way that we communicate. There are absolutely challenging conversations and tense moments, but I think we all have each other's best interest in mind, and we know how good it feels to be valued and heard and supported. So we try to reciprocate that for each other. I actually think fondly of the first time we toured in Europe. It was our first tour bus experience, and we found that every night after we loaded out, we, instead of driving to a hotel and getting settled there, we could just walk right onto the bus, which meant there was always a little bit of time to hang out before bed. And we got into a nice pre-bed routine of playing Mario Kart as a group. And one of the guys from Cory Wong's band, the band that we were opening for, came onto our bus one night and was like, "Oh my God, you guys all hang out after the show?" He was like, "All of you are in the lounge together playing Mario Kart? That's so sweet." And that was a nice, again, I guess it's like hearing from other people their perceptions of us helps us kind of take stock and feel gratitude. And so in that moment, I could reflect and go, oh, it actually is nice and maybe rare that we want to keep hanging out after the show's over.
I love that. At the end of the day, you guys are with your friends, and I feel like that is so special. And honestly, that is, I mean, musician myself, I could see that is so evident in when you guys play live. You guys did like you said, a tour with Cory Wong, and how people have found you, I imagine, through Cory Wong is how I found out about Stephen Day through you. How are you? And by the way, I was praying that he would sing Autumn with you after I heard him open for you. I was like, man, he would kill that. So I was so happy to see that. Oh my God. I was like, geeked out moment for me. How do you go about picking openers and collaborators?
Well, we do use Slack as our business ways of communication, and we do have an opener Slack channel. And I feel like when we're gearing up for a tour, we all, similarly to any other process when it comes to voting, we kind of all put out names who we think are musically a good fit, who business-wise could help us sell tickets in markets that we need help with, and are people that we genuinely to listen to ourselves, which is the biggest part really of how we choose who to open for us. And then it kind of just comes down to a vote. We all listen to their music, and if we all are vibing with it, then that seems to be the clear choice. But really, we've never had an opener that we don't listen to ourselves. And I think that's enjoyable for us, because we, just as much as our fans who come to a show would to hear the opener, we also want to listen to the opener. Most recently, we had our friends in an amazing band, Thummer, on the road with us. And, we're big fans of their music, and Stephen Day before them, and Night Talks, who are also on the tour with us, different parts. We really just also want to hear them and see them live. And it's like a good excuse for us to do that.
All right, and that's it for part 1 of Funktastic Chats with Couch the Band. Make sure you go to www.couchtheband.com and see where they'll be playing next. They are touring internationally, and maybe they'll be playing in a city near you. By the end of this conversation, it's clear that Couch just isn't a band. They're a blueprint for building something that lasts. They say we can make fans by playing a good show, but we can make these super fans by building real relationships, Tema says. And, that care shows in everything that they do, from these VIP meet and greets to couch family photos, turning casual listeners into a community and fostering connection, nostalgia, and even giving back to charity. It's they say even when we're far from home, seeing these familiar faces makes it feel like a community, and that sense of belonging is what keeps fans coming back night after night. Behind the scenes, I'm sure managing a touring 7-piece band is no easy thing to do, yet they do it with trust, generosity, and honesty. It's like they said, none of us are trying to screw each other over here. We actually want what's best for each other, navigating everything from splitting songwriting credits with fairness to handling creative disagreements. They said there are moments where people said, I think I should take less and give it more to somebody else, especially when it comes to those songwriting credits, showing how much mutual respect keeps their chemistry strong and sustainable. I'm sure touring isn't glamorous, right? They say they face blown tires, a wheel ejecting onto the highway. Yet even through the chaos, they find perspective. Some of the most special moments, they said, where we actually stop and realizing what's happening. Whether it's seeing family at shows or hanging out after a long night of touring. I thought that was pretty funny when Lake Street Dive came up in the tour van. It was like, you guys are still hanging out together? And so they learned that discovery alone isn't enough. And, AI might help people find us, but it's not what makes them stay. And some artists go viral and disappear, but that word of mouth builds something that lasts, whether it's through social media, Spotify, or personal connections. Couch shows that authenticity and intentionality, by choosing the openers they love to listen to, for example, because they want to enjoy the show too, are things that transform casual listeners into lifelong fans. So at its core, this episode, I think, is about building something more meaningful, not just attention, but connection and substance. They remind us, and people who win long-term aren't just the most talented alone. They're the most intentional about how they build and who they build with, and the community that they build along the way. Maybe most importantly, too, success isn't just about the next gig, the next album, the next milestone. It's stopping long enough to feel the moment you're in and being grateful for every person, every family member, every connection, every experience that brought you here. We'll be back for part 2 of Funktastic Chats next time. You are extraordinary. We'll see you soon.
Maybe because your light shines enough for every dark sky to be brightened up. You are a once in a lifetime love, and I don't want my life to be like it was. Maybe because your light shines enough for every dark sky to be brightened up.